Hello, I am Chris from Airwindows, and yeah, I am late today, but it's been a busy week. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. Turning on all my little lights and stuff. And you can hear from the sound of it that I am not exactly up to hard work today. So we're looking at a few minutes of derping around in Minecraft. Well, I tell you, I chopped down a couple of trees, I guess. And yeah, you don't have to hang on for very long. This is not going to be an impressive stream. Yeah, I just got back from the hospital, but not in a bad way. Now you might well ask, what on earth do you mean by I just got back from the hospital but not in a bad way? But I'm not making that up. I am getting older. I'm like 56 years old. And as such, sometimes it's good to do medical-oriented things. Like, for instance, go and get checked to see if you have colon cancer. And so this is the thing that I did. There is what I consider to be a famous can I jump up onto that? Not really. What I consider to be a famous Rick Wakeman joke. So when, yes, we're inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, various members of Yes got to make a little, oh, you're older than me, good. Various members of Yes got to make speeches. And Rick Wakeman is a rather special man, so he had a speech. And among the things he talked about was how important it is if you were a man who is getting on in age to go and get screened for colon cancer. And he told this little story about how he went to the doctor and he knew what he was in for because he was getting a doctor with like the rubber glove on, and the doctor was all prepared to investigate Rick Wakeman more deeply than most fans or music listeners ever get to or would want to. And he's uncomfortable, yeah, but it is important. And so he went right along with it. And the doctor noticed that he was uncomfortable. And so was looking to reassure him. And he is telling this story to literally the audience for the induction for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Steve Howe is losing his mind and being very embarrassed and humiliated because he had a very serious story to tell. And Rick Wakeman is telling this other story. And although arguably it's also a serious story, I mean, these are important things. And Rick Wakeman thought that it was very important to tell everybody, what you might be in for, and that you should do the screening, which my story will continue along those lines, but not exactly those lines. So Rick is explaining how he went to the doctor, and oh yeah, you're the keyboard player, Rick Wakeman. Oh wow, that's very nice. And it's like, okay, you're going to feel a little pressure. Now, Mr. Wakeman, I need to tell you that to have an erection during this procedure is completely normal and there is nothing to worry about. And Rick goes, but doctor, I don't have an erection. And the doctor says, well, I have. I'm not making that up. Go and look it up. Rick finished up his little story around about then, but oh my God. So I'm here to tell you they don't do that, not quite like that anymore. Instead, what goes on is that you, let me see, where's my, I know, right? I'm not making that up. He really did that. Instead, it's more a high technology kind of thing, because they've got these elaborate scopes, and they can go and investigate you very, very closely with a little camera on the end of some sort of doohickey. Although there is some risk to it, and there is some risk to being put under anesthesia, which is what happened to me. I got put under anesthesia. I'm also wondering whether this potatoes over there will ever grow. Maybe I need to put bucket some water in there or something. So what happened to me was I had a friend drive me over, because you have to have a friend. If you are not a social person, it's good to make connections with people enough that there can be another human being who can help you with things like that, because it's kind of important. I have had a friend before who was stuck in that situation, and she did not think that she had any friends that moved, I think, that she could ask, which was weird because she's like a recovery person, so she had loads of people, but she couldn't think of anybody. So I have this friend who I had another recovery person, and I have known this guy for like 20 years, and he gave me a ride over. I had to, an unpleasant part of it is that you have to empty yourself out real good. So they make you go and get a couple of different kinds of weird laxatives, some pills, and then also some weird, I think, plastic powder gook, polyethylene glycol or something like that, which you mix up in apple juice or half apple juice and half water. And I went and did this, and it's not actually, you don't lose control of yourself, but you're visiting the bathroom repeatedly, and there's nothing in you but liquid, so you can kind of imagine it's not very pleasant. But it was tolerable. You can survive stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal. And then you don't get to eat anything for the 2 days as part of what they call a prep day. So I do all of that. Looks like I could get some wool if I needed it. Oh, more trees. I head over with the help of my friend. Oh, I hear jingly noises. I believe that is probably a bad guy. But I don't see where he is. I bet I will in a moment. I hear you, but I don't see you. Aha. I guess I'll just have to chop this down with the spooky, scary skeleton hanging around. Sounds like he's that away, and that doesn't make any sense at all. And let me see. I'll hang out in here and see if the Scully shows up. Him is over there somewhere. And I'll hang out by the fire. I was out today, so it's a little chilly in here. I'll I'll be heading to bed somewhat early. And they do all this very elaborate stuff with their machinery and everything. It's a pretty major undertaking. Good heavens, that's a tall tree. Because you've got the high-tech spy cam thing that is spying on your insides. And you have a full anesthesia thing going on, so that's always very serious. And it's signing away all manner of things like, okay, if you die, then this means we're not in trouble. Okay, yeah, gotcha. And the anesthesia person puts you out, and a moment later you wake back up, not all that much more sore, and done with the procedure. And it turns out I did not have any cancer. So, yay, I wasn't really sure whether there was going to be a nasty surprise in there for me, but no, not so much. And they did actually remove some kind of polyp or something, so they did find something to do. And then the final bit was a weird, interesting thing which you would only get if you were like a recovering addict, or I suppose alcoholic or something like that, somebody who had been clean and sober for a long time. Because a thing that happened, we've got these, I can cook something in there and make those turn on, but I'm not worried about that right now, so never mind. See, I woke back up and was all wonky from the anesthesia and stuff, although happy to hear that everything was fine. It's been like that for all of my medical things in the last year or so. It's like, oh, yep, you seem great. Cool, pleased to hear it. And truck going by outside. So I'm completely loopy from the anesthesia, and they're like, okay, go into that bathroom, put your regular clothes back on, and you need to sit in this wheelchair when you're ready, and we will wheel you out. And we'll wheel you all the way to the car, if you like. And I'm going, okay. But when I'm changing into my clothes, I'm like, wow, I have not had this feeling for over 30 years. I mean, hearing that everything's good is fine. All of a sudden, I have the experience of I can be loopy and completely off my head from the anesthesia from this procedure and put on a show of acting like nothing is wrong, which I had to do back in the day when I was using. So I found that the funniest thing ever, and you wouldn't get it unless you had had that experience. It's like, imagine, walking upstairs to your bedroom without showing mom or dad that anything is unusual with you. And it was exactly like that, except for it wouldn't matter because I was supposed to be under anesthesia and there was nothing wrong with what happened. But it was extremely funny. So I'm going, okay, yeah, roll me out to the front desk, that's fine. And they're like, oh, do we need to roll you over to the car too? And I'm going, no, I got it. And I'm walking to the car, talking quite clearly, and with my friend, who is also a recovering addict. So I talked with him about that. Oh, that's funny. What happened? Give me that back. So that was, I wonder if it's going to run 2 instances of the game. I guess we'll find out. So I'm talking to my friend about, like, this is incredibly funny. You realize what is happening is now I am standing up and walking out to the car perfectly normally, as if nothing is unusual. And it has been 30 years since I've had this feeling of like, nope, walk straight, don't sound weird. And we sort of shared that joke a little bit. Because it was funny because there was nothing about that where I had to act in any particular way. I could have been loopy as hell and gotten wheeled to the car and it would have been fine. But there I was going, no, I'm fine. I did not insist upon walking down the hall and out the door myself, which I could have if I really wanted to roll with it. If I really wanted to put on a show like, nope, I'm fine. I am the master of my fate and a big, strong, manly man, so I can get right up and you don't need a wheelchair for me. No, I'm good. But the whole time I would have been like, I feel completely loopy, but I'm making as if everything is normal. And it's been solid 30 years since I needed to be in any kind of situation like that. I just thought it was quite funny. I found it very amusing. Let's see if we've got... Nope. If we have two separate things. So yeah, so all that happened this week. And I do not actually plan to spend literally, maybe one thing that might be nice is maybe I'll make some torches and put them over there where my other stuff is. I noticed that some of you folks are talking about getting tested for diabetes and stuff. And yeah. No, do what you can. I know a bunch of you are not in the United States. If the reason that I went for doing this in the United States is that I am not certain that we're going to necessarily have healthcare going forwards in the same way. So now was the time to do it. Ooh, Jonathan, you have an observation. You know, if it is letting you master at lower volumes, not that I'm sure if you're mastering, probably you want to use meter as well to see what's going on. But if you're using cans as a ear check and you're trying to do mastering on, if you're trying to do mastering on audio, and you're running through cans, that's an interesting choice. And what you should do is make sure that all your reference material sounds optimal and then try to match it. That would be what you should do. However, I may possibly be misunderstanding. Here's what we wanted. Let's make a little bunch of... Oh, you haven't tried cans yet? That is a pretty big deal, honestly. I feel like that was a pretty successful little plugin right there. Oh, no. Well, I said no, but it didn't listen. But it didn't do a lot of damage, so fine. Do I have dirt on me? Yes, I do. I tried to back up and nothing happened. This is why I was putting light around. There should be plenty of dirt to fill this area in. Very impressive music going on. Oh, I should talk about some of the music that I have just recently got. Like I said, I was out. It sounds like I'm playing two instances of music at the same time. The reason I came up with that idea was because I was asked for it. Somebody was... Oh yeah, I'm getting 2 instances of music. That's funny. Okay, so we'll call that sort of horror music. We've got dissonant music playing in the background. What do you think of that? And we've got an enormously tall tree too. Let's go and light this area up real good. I think it is going to settle down and not be as creepy. But I am going to take a moment, I think, to first go sleep, and then I'm going to close all the instances so that I only have one running. Cans plugin does a whole bunch more than just reducing the stereo image, let me tell you. Okay, so while I reshuffle all of this, let's quit out of that. And we'll quit out of that and we'll start it up again. Yeah, I did have 2 instances going. Hey, Sister Rose, I'm just stopping in briefly. One of the things I was doing today was I got to swing by a record store, and oh my gosh, so much weird stuff. Would you like to see what it's just over there. Give me a second, I'll go and dig up the stuff. And maybe once I finish doing that, yeah, I'll tell you what, like, never mind this Lunar Client stuff. I do not really need that. We'll quit out of there. I'll just show you records that I need to record and analyze using Meter. And then once I finish doing that, we'll go and make some food, because it's the end of my day. But yeah. So the deal with cans, if you do not know what cans is, it's like a control room reverb. And the deal with that is, since it's a control room reverb with about 5 sizes and a lot of power over how bright or damped everything is and how diffuse everything is, it will also work as a drum room. And my current drum room is so heavily filled with like packing blankets and damping and stuff that it's super duper dead. Way more than you would get with just foam, because the packing blankets are all folded up like they are drapes, folds of drapes everywhere. Sister Rose, I'll have a look at the transient shaper thing. I'll see what I can do with it. I feel like the upcoming, like the rest of December, is probably going to be putting out the plate reverbs. Might be a good holiday thing. But yeah, the thing about the cans is designed so that you can turn the brightness down. You have damping be in the middle or lower, and that rolls off the highs so much that you don't get a lot of splashy reverb going on, because you don't want that for a control room. but it fills in mids, low mids, and bass in an interesting way because it reshapes them. And you also get to turn a wide range of, it'll let you morph between comb filters and all-pass filters, meaning it will morph between a kind of metallic, bare-sounding room and like cloud coat, basically. So you mess with that to get that going. And the choices that it gives you lean towards the control room sounding things. But if you pick the largest one, that can act like a drum room pretty easily. So yeah, I anticipate using that for that purpose. And if you're doing that in mix and you're working on headphones, the idea with cans is you can use it twice. If you needed to add ambience, then you make it add ambience for stuff. But what you do is you take anything that is way too dry or just reference music that you know how it's supposed to sound in a room, and you set up cans so that your headphone mix sounds right to you. Whatever it takes to do that. Because the thing about headphone mixes is that the peaks will all get past you. So you just let it bloom just a small amount. And you would be using the drum room or whatever and the one on the monitoring chain in series, not in parallel. So the one on your master is the one that you monitor through, but then you turn it off when you export. So if other people are doing that, they can use their own settings for that. And the ones that are serving the purpose of being a drum room or whatever, you leave those. And yeah, I will be combining it with Hypersoft. But yeah, I got records, all new records. And I'll tell you which ones I got, and then I'm going to go and have dinner. Firstly, 1973's Rufus. I've not had the 1970s Rufus. This is where Chaka Khan first appeared. It's astonishing, too, because it's like, this is the whitest damn group, but they play some really incredible funk. They're digging really deep to keep up with Chaka Khan. She ended up being a star in her own right. So this is a 1973 Rufus. 1974 Rufus. I first ran into this one listening to the React YouTubers Andy and Alex, which I hope Andy is doing good. Andy and Alex recently had a change where Andy was kind of burned out and was not feeling good, and he stopped, and it's Alex carrying on with them. So yeah, this is Rags to Rufus, and it has the song, Give Me Something Good, Tell Me Something Good. And then I had a later Rufus album. It's still quite good, but this is the grungier, like punchier Rufus stuff. So I anticipate like recording these entire albums and separating them out into individual songs and getting familiar with what these albums are. Headphones can be dangerous because if you're trying to make up the lacks of headphones by turning it up more, you'll hurt your ears pretty good. I do not know whether this is what the character in Bill and Ted is named after. Third Rufus, 1975. So I got 73, 74, and 75. I believe I have the 1976 album, of which I didn't record all that much. It was drifting in the direction of like very light sophistopop kind of stuff. On this one, they cover Jive Talkin', the Bee Gees song with the claps, you know, Bee Gees, Jive. That one. So yeah, Rufus is Tony Maiden. I don't know if I guess this is him on all of these albums. Andre Fisher on drums. Bobby Watson on bass and vocals. It seems like the lineup has changed. Kevin Murphy on keyboards. He was there from the beginning. Tower of Power horns on this one. That's interesting. And it's not actually a gatefold, it's just broken. So I ran across like 3 early 70s funk albums. That's pretty cool. Ooh, I don't even know that one, but I already have this. But my hope is this is Creedence's Bayou Country. This is a hot album. It feels incredibly intense, rocking, and distorted. It's like their second album. It has Proud Mary. It has Born on the Bayou, which is a classic. Good Golly Miss Molly, Pentas Popper, Keep on Chugglin', Bootleg, and Graveyard Train. I know all of these, and the record I have of this, I think, is the one that I grew up with, and it has been wore out real good. But my hope is that this is cleaner, and so I can get copies of these things where if they're not all horrible and crackly and stuff, I can record this and play it for you. I am questioning at the moment where I stand on continuing to do the remastering thing, where I'm bringing stuff out and making it flash a little bit more, or going back to the 100% exactly as it was on the vinyl album, because I've had mixed results on that. The Talking Heads track I just did the way that I wanted, and people complained that it was not bright enough and didn't sound right. Then I did, God, what was the next one? Watching the Detectives by Elvis Costello, which is a really garagey sounding record. And I kind of remastered that one, and it made it sound kind of bigger and more modern and stuff. I wasn't doing decrackling, mind you, but I was doing some reshaping with that mastering plugin I made. And I got it to be quite a bit livelier, and then I put the original version straight off of the vinyl immediately thereafter. And some people like the original version. And I'm kind of like, no, by all means, carry on. If you do not like the work that I do in making this sound more sparky, mind you, there's stuff in my little list of things that I'd like to remaster where I wouldn't mind getting, I think somebody was asking for Astronomy Domine. I wouldn't mind redoing that and making it sound more like Dark Side of the Moon. And I have Echoes of Pink Floyd's Metal, and I wouldn't mind remastering that to bring out those subs and very small amount of added air and making the gain work properly without substantially changing any of it. I used a version in only the mastering plugin, which is extremely difficult to make work, but it's based on Stonefire. It's a 4-band Stonefire. I suppose I can let people have it, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Oh, hey, the Ventures. Ventures play Telstar. Also, they play Tequila, but not the way that the original recorders do. So this is the famous, if you've not heard of the Ventures are an instrumental band. They play all these things on just electric guitars and like Fender twin reverbs with the reverb turned all the way up. They go twang, 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 twang. They are not distorted. They're using those Fender amps for like the extremely loud, clean sounds, but this is what the Ventures were doing. It's just, there's no singers there. They're just playing like strats and things into these giant Fender amps that are just twangy, twangy, twangy. So I'm going to get familiar with what some of that stuff is about. See, you've got Don Wilson, rhythm and lead guitar, Bob Bogie, lead and bass guitar, and Noki Edwards, lead and bass guitar, and then drums by Mel Taylor. So I'm not all, in the bottom of this has a whole bunch of albums they've done. So I am not all that familiar with them. It is off of Dolton Records, a division of Liberty Records, and sadly it did not have an inner sleeve, so might have gotten a little crunched up, but Dolton Records. So That's some very old vinyl for you. Speaking of very old vinyl for you, I think this might be the first Simon & Garfunkel. At any rate, it is Wednesday morning, 3 a.m., exciting new sounds in the folk tradition by Simon & Garfunkel. It includes The Sounds of Silence, and I don't recognize any of these other songs. It is, of course, Simon & Garfunkel, so presumably they sing well. But I don't know any of these other songs, and you'd think that I would, because I do know who Simon & Garfunkel are. But yeah, this is apparently them just getting started. It's Babby Simon and Babby Garfunkel. And the record label is one of the Columbia 360 sound labels. That is a old Columbia label. So I'm curious to see what those other songs are like, because I don't know what any of those are. This is a funny one. I have had a copy of this album forever. This is a Firesign Theater. This is not a music band. This is a comedy group. It's called Don't Crush That Dwarf, Hand Me the Pliers. Like back when I was very into these guys. You would like take acid and listen to this record. It is a very wild, trippy record. They're very good comedy performers. They're very good at speaking and acting and doing things. And they are very weird writers. And this is one of their wildest excursions, where that's apparently their star signs there. This guy would be, I guess, Capricorn. Here's a Leo. He's a big kitty. And they are both, I guess, Sagittarius, which means they are centaurs with a plunger on the end of a bow. And a squirt gun and a pliers. So yeah, the reason I grabbed for this, and I hope it's nice and clean. Let's see, let's reflect some light off of this. It looks fairly clean. Yeah, see, that looks relatively clean. Although this may be another one where, oh, yep, I need to get a sleeve for this. See, here's the thing. I have this album, and I've had it for, 40 or so years. A long time. Oh, I have seen the old vinyl. Once I had, I believe it was Chuck Berry Maybelline on 78. I don't remember what happened to that. I don't have it anymore. Either I sold it off, or it might have been during the time, like around the time that I was using is also the time that I spent a little time homeless, and I may have lost that record in that transition. So spend a lifetime in weird circumstances, and you get what you get. But anyway, the deal with this album is it has a passage sung by, let's see now, the Android sisters Pomona, Covina, and Laverne. And it's in the middle of one of their skits. They do this skit where it's like, change over to the story of George Tirebiter, a 1950s comedy show. And so they sort of blip over to that. And these three women sing a intro song. It goes, Porgy, Tirebiter, he's a spy and a girl delight her. Porgy, Tirebiter, he's a student like you. If you look, and they continue a little bit, but they do such incredible tight harmonies, and it sounds amazing. These guys were also very good at audio quality. Like whoever it was that was running tech for them, man, they were really good at getting a good sound. I'm not quite sure. 1970. So this is a 1970 record. So you had these three singers hitting these incredible harmonies as their little intro song for the Porgy Tirebiter thing. It's a gag, it's a joke, but man. And I always played that for everything that I did experimenting with record players. And I built like tone arms and things. And as a result of that, on my copy of that record, it has been played with broken phonograph needles and weird ways of like take a phonograph needle and tape it onto a paper bubble that extends out backwards so that you have literally an acoustic sound, and then see if you can make that sound especially good. And it's very lively, but it doesn't give you an RIAA transform. And through doing that kind of stuff, I damaged those exact grooves. So my copy of that song is broken now. So I have bought this new copy of this record in hopes that I can hear it again the way that I heard it when I was a kid. And that'll be cool. This one I did not have when I was a kid. Jackson Browne, Late for the Sky, his first record. It's a Magritte riff there. This is a take on a random Magritte painting. There was a series of paintings that he painted with darkened exteriors, complete with lamps and lights and stuff, but completely sunny skies. So he's running with that for the cover. And then this is him on the back. Part of the reason that he got a record deal was he's a very pretty man. I don't know any of these songs, but these are supposed to be the songs that made Jackson Browne be a big deal. So I'll see what that's like. But the reason I was curious about that is the particular record seller who had this record also had 3 other copies, but this is the copy that didn't have the Asylum label. So now I'm curious as to whether this is a later label. It also has a weirdly large amount of land in the grooves here, whereas the ones with the proper Asylum label that you see everywhere else didn't have that. So I'm going to look up whether this one label, there was 3 other copies of it, all of them had the regular Asylum label, whether this is something special. Whether this is the early release before they had the graphics for that, because I know this is one of his first things. And all the other stuff appears to have the more art-inspired one, but this might be a very early pressing, and so that was what I was interested in there. Little 80s for you. Hall & Oates, I can study what that does now. I don't think I had this one. Nice, clean record. Doesn't seem too nasty or scratchy, which I would expect for this. This is not like a Rolling Stones or Steppenwolf record. And this has, I don't know any of the things on this side, but 2 songs are pretty well known off of this other side. Maneater and One on One. One on One, I want to play that game tonight. So I get to add to my collection to study a couple more Hall & Oates tracks. A couple more Hall & Oates tracks that I can show you. Again, I have not entirely made up my mind as far as whether I want to be using my techniques to remaster these or just plain show people the very, very raw output straight off of the record, because I've got this nice little counterpoint tube phono preamplifier, and you've heard the stuff that I do with the records. They sound pretty nice. Speaking of sounding pretty nice, I found the record Jive Talking came from. I don't know any of these other songs, although, and apparently Songbird is not the Christine McVie. So we've got literally all of these are from the Gibbs. And also note that it says, see this, I get to know what some of the recording technology was here because we've got a credit that I didn't ever know about before. And it says, accommodation at 461 Ocean Boulevard. Thank you, Cindy and Jerry. Home at last. Recorded at Criteria in Miami. So this is an MCI record. And that shows. It shows. But yeah, we can be absolutely certain this is an MCI console record. So if I study this and I put out maybe a newer version of console MC, I can get even closer to what the real thing would be. And this has Jive Talkin', a track called Nights on Broadway. It looks pretty clean. And I will take great interest in finding out what's going on, because this is Bee Gees disco, from which Jive Talkin' comes, from 1975. Some of those early disco tracks, for instance, I have the Casey and the Sunshine Band album. I think their first album. And so I recorded all the tracks off of that. And man, they're really good funk. They're really lively. Here's an interesting one. I don't know if you know what this is. Silver Convention Save Me, on the Midland International label. So this is a sort of early disco electronic band, and they did the tracks Save Me and Fly Robin Fly. And Fly Robin Fly was sort of an early techno peak of things. This is like a one-hit record. But it is another 1975, it's an interesting year for having interesting sounding records come out. I am quite looking forward to this. This is a Munich, Germany band. And it'll be a real good peek into mid-70s dance/techno/house kind of stuff off of 1975 vinyl, meaning I get to have a really good picture of what's actually going on in the real sound of that kind of thing. We're not talking like remasters or anything like that. It's a bunch of electronics, but although it's a bunch of electronics, kind of like I ended up getting the Chariots of Fire soundtrack from Vangelis, and so that is a like late 70s, early 80s, something like that, picture of the sound quality that went into Blade Runner, but off of that era of vinyl. Yeah, Silver Convention's Fly Robin Fly is probably leaning a little bit in the direction of techno, if I remember correctly. I think they have some synthetic stuff. They might even have synthetic drums. At any rate, it's not simply a funk band. They're kind of getting a little craft work because they're from Germany. So I think they took that Kraftwerkian direction and got things becoming a little more electronic-y. Here's one. Do you recognize what this is? This has one track where you would recognize what it is. And the rest of the tracks, I have no idea what's going on with them. Might not even be any good. I suppose I'll check them out. It is Brian Connolly on lead vocals, Steve Priest on bass guitar and lead vocals, Andy Scott, all guitar, synthesizer, and vocals, and Mick Tucker on drums. If that doesn't help you, the band is called Sweet. And the man in the back said, "Everyone attacking will turn into a ballroom blitz, ballroom blitz." This is the record that came from. So it looks to be 1973, 1974, 1975, Capitol Records, another 1975. So now I can record that one-hit wonder, Ballroom Blitz, and show you what it really sounds like back in the day when it came out on vinyl and we heard it the way it was meant to be heard. Oh, you're listening to the Silver Convention? Good. Yeah, 90s house piano in 1975. See, all of these things you get to continue to use. Here's one I'm probably going to listen to a fair bit of. Let's see if I can no, it's going to look exactly the same from every angle because it is the Human League. And so it's just got a bunch of faces. Here's the girl singers. Here's our lead vocal. A&M record. This is going to be 80s of some kind. So this is the one with Don't You Want Me. It also has the song The Sound of the Crowd, which is another hit. And this is early synth pop. Got a whole bunch. This is one of the good Human League albums. Not all of them are great, but... So I should be able to see the track listing here. Ian Burden synthesizer, Joe Callis synthesizer, Joanne Catherall vocals, Philip Oakey vocals and synthesizer, Susan Sully vocals, Philip Adrian White, slides, and occasional synthesizer. You could call this a synthesizer band. Oh, we can also... They've got an instrument listing. You ever wanted to know what instruments were used on Don't You Want Me? Because we can find out. Roland MC8, Roland System 700, Roland JP4, Korg 770, and I guess Korg Delta, Casio VLT1 and M10, and the Lindrum, Lin LM1, Yamaha CS15, and a Roland microcomposer and the Lin Drum computer. So it's a bunch of Roland and Korg, some Casio, some Yamaha, and Lin. These are not Moog guys, apparently. But that's where this comes from. So all the drums on this are going to be the Lin drums. Did I notice some of this record? Let me know what you mean by this record. I'm looking forward to hearing some of this. This is the same record that showed up in the British comedy show, The Young Ones. The Rick Mayall is like, wait, let's listen to some music, put on some Human League. And he's like, ah. And Vivian says, I'm so bored, I might as well be listening to Genesis. Dun, 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 dun. Not to get content ID'd. Live and Let Die, the soundtrack. That should be fun. I feel like I can probably put that one out as enjoy hearing this. Live and Let Die is 1 minute and 7 seconds long. Apparently. And this looks fairly... I'm trying to reflect the light off of it. Fairly clean. So I have, I think, a fairly decent... Also, an interesting thing about this. This United Artists label is also what you find on the Zappa album, 200 Motels. And this is from about the same time. And that record, 200 Motels, sounds pretty amazing. So, again, hoping that this is clean and it's not all nasty and crackly and stuff. But there is the prospect of Live and Let Die sounding unusually amazing even for vinyl. Because the 200 Motels sounds really intense even for vinyl. Yeah, I don't think the Human League had Casio CZs. I feel like this is even earlier. But if I had said Casio CZ, then I stand corrected. So I have another surprise. Remember how the Human League were not Moog folks? Tomita is a Moog folk. He has got a giant list of all of the modular Moog stuff that he used on this album. This is him doing the Firebird Suite and also Debussy Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun and A Night on Bald Mountain. So that should be... I don't know that much about what this is, but this is a 1976 all Moog all the time Tomita record. And that should be good fun. I don't know whether I'm going to find his actual music exciting. I don't know whether this label is amazing for RCA. It's the RCA Red label, but RCA were the same people who were doing Shaded Dog, and this is after that time. So they went with, I think, a really ugly-looking label for Red Seal. But it might sound wonderful. It'll certainly sound very Moog-y. If I learn that stuff well enough and accustom myself to the sound of that well enough, I might go into Surge XT and see what I can do to replicate some of those sounds in the free soft synth Surge. That would be very exciting. Who's talking about mono 1 bass? You don't want to run a lot of stereo bass, but you can in fact run some kind of bass. Speaking of bass and surprises, you'll never guess what I found. It was actually a secondhand shop, but a whole bunch of different people suddenly had records this time. I'd been through there before, and all of a sudden, all of the different dealers had little stacks of records, and some of them had the weirdest stuff that I didn't usually see, like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, The Message, on vinyl. So this is one of the things I have been really wanting to be able to educate myself better on, like, what historic rap is meant to sound like. I want to hear what this is. And this appears to be band driven more than loops and stuff. It's 1982. But one thing about it is I will clearly be able to work out what the vocals are done properly. Yeah, I hope it's in good shape. They stuck a price label to it that took some of this cover off, which I think is gross. But yeah. A Sugar Hill label. And it looks real clean, which I respect and appreciate. So many of, like, my, I don't know, Creedence or Rolling Stones records or Steppenwolf especially are just trashed. But this one looks as if this has been treasured. I don't know if it's been used by a DJ, but it's possible that it even was. And it's a 19... I will get to hear all these things, which I did not know any of these tracks other than The Message. The Message is, of course, the big hit. The seminal track. And I'll get to see what else they were up to. And I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what these guys were up to. Because part of my deal is being able to give the same kind of communication that was happening at this time. I feel like in some ways, in the modern day, we've got all our laptops and stuff, and everything is supposed to be all so amazing and great, but I think it all sounds really dead compared to some of that stuff. And it should be possible to do better. We could probably do better than this. The reason I got this is because I tried studying the existing record that I had of Bat Out of Hell. And the record, the cover was fine, but the record was all chewed up. It was in really rough shape. I guess that's another one like Steppenwolf or whatever. It's like, okay, Steppenwolf, Rolling Stones, Meatloaf. People are going to get drunk and kick it around on the floor for a while. But this one looks like it may be cleaner. So if this plays and doesn't like all skip and stuff, I can add some of these songs to my collection. And that's of course the big Meatloaf record, pretty much more than any other one. And if I could do that, I can study how that was done technically, because that was Todd Rundgren. Todd Rundgren doing the technical side of things and all of the difficult musical parts, and Jim Steinman, helping to write everything and playing piano. And then I have an assortment. I don't generally go for vinyl in different colors than black, although it's not impossible. Maybe I do. And then I have a collection of stuff which I got for the purposes of sampling. I suppose I shouldn't be showing you these because then people will know where I got them. The guy that did the Caretaker music had a way of finding really obscure records and not letting anybody know what they were, and so people who were trying to find his samples had an extraordinarily difficult time. I have this. I don't think this ended up being a hit record. I don't know how many of these are out there. This is music of the Cameroon, the Fulani of the North. So I got a whole record. And it looks quite clean and stuff too. There was a record that I got that was exploring Chinese music. That was another interesting find. But this is Ubuman Mai, Mbada, Filobipila, Nehaha, Jambego, and Ndespa Gole Nyabaka. I could be pronouncing those super wrong. But the thing is, I can record this and have a source for weird, obscure little samples, which record companies are not going to be chasing me after, so that can fit into creative musical work. Because anything that I can get as a sample, I can load up as a little mono 16-bit sample using dithers and stuff to make it still sound right in Surge XT. So any little noise can bring the character of what's in here, except that it can be a little one-shot. It could be a percussive effect, it could be something else, but it would be something that is not going to show up on record companies' radar. And we've got a whole, like, none of these instruments are going to be recognizable to people. We've also got singing. The singing is not in English. Much like the Chinese record I have, the singing is not in English. And yeah, I'm very interested to find out what the sounds of this are, because I have no idea. On the other hand, we know what the sounds of this are. The Flight of Apollo 11. Looks like a nice, clean record, too, if I remember correctly. Oh, yeah. It's pretty clean looking. We're hoping it's not going to be all crackly and stuff. So if I want my samples, or if I want to do some kind of techno drum and bass thing, but I want to throw in, or dubstep, and I want to throw in like outer space samples, so that the eagle has landed. The eagle has landed. This is literally it. This is literally NASA playback and whatever blather they have going on. They have a whole fold-out stuff. I don't know how many other things. All of the people doing this are going to sound very 1950s. It's narrated by Roy Neal of NBC News, who is our narrator and official host for this recorded journey. And he's apparently the guy doing the reading of all of this. So yeah, it's like a presumably clean take on very old sounding NASA rocketry stuff and the moonshot, the Apollo moonshot. If I want beeps and bloops that sound like Mission Control or whatever, that'll be a place to get it. And yeah, so that was kind of cool. I feel like maybe I've seen that somewhere before, but this time I was like, nope, yoink, yoink, I bet I can use this for something. Here's another weirdity. These are actually fairly popular, but they do things like sound effects records and stuff. And this is... The cover is by Joseph Albers, who's one of the Bauhaus guys, so he's a cover designer. Some of these are dots, and I don't know if I can get it to focus. The gray dots are actually concentric circles. A fine hairline. Oh, there we go. So this is a Joseph Albers painting. Although he is the guy that had people cutting out construction paper to explore new ways of arting that didn't have to involve painting. And they got him to do this 1960s persuasive percussion record. So this is going to have a lot of bongos and stuff. Enoch Light and his orchestra. So there's probably also orchestra stuff. But yeah, and I believe there was also another credit in there getting my attention. I think inside pages of the sleeve. Here at the inside of the sleeve. Oh, down there, recording chief Robert Fine. Robert Fine is the man who worked with Mercury Living Presence, well-known audiophile records. Said Wilma Cozart Fine, who married him. So this is like what Robert Fine was doing before he switched over to doing the Mercury Living Presence records. He worked for Command Records, and he was involved in this. So he was getting his chops together. This is like the early version of an engineer that was going to become extremely notable. And lastly, and then it is going to be time for me to go and have dinner. San Francisco Records brings you Plinkety Plank Plunk. A massive hit, clearly. I have no idea what lurks within this. We got this little cartoon of a dude with a funny mustache. Says the crazy sound, so we know it's going to be crazy, of Don Davis's Ricky Tick piano. So we're not talking Rickenbacker, we're talking Ricky Tick. What is it? It's a player piano. And I seem to have not... Let me get this over here so that I can investigate it. This might be one of those ones where nobody ever listened to it. Like they went, huh, okay, and then they put it away and never listened to it again. It might be very unmusical, but what it is, it has a plastic lined sleeve, is rather clean. Nobody was getting drunk and kicking this around on the floor while listening to it for pleasure. This is pristine. And the back side of it, which is a black and white, there's like spots of red, but that's somebody going after it with a pen. So the front has sort of color, and then the black is saving on money by not printing in color. That's fairly common from this era. It is piano rolls and the full fidelity player piano, not the then lowly lo-fi phonograph. So Ricky Tick is a program heard in San Francisco. Being used, contrary to the usual procedure, the most unlikely spot was chosen for this recording, they say. Al Levitt and Dick Kepner of San Francisco Records chose our hallway in KFRC. It uses studio model Ampex 350s and an Altec M30 microphone system. Pickup was made at the rear of the piano, and it is a player piano record. All the tracks are really short. A whole bunch of different things. So Ricky Tick became a radio program. So they borrowed a player piano and got a hold of a bunch of piano rolls and played a player piano on the radio in San Francisco because they enjoyed it. Sometimes they'd speed up the rolls even faster, although I do not think we have any Conlon Nancaro. Conlon Nancaro would be a really interesting find here. Final notes on there. In some cases, the rolls were speeded up ever so minutely by the mad, sick producer, Al Levitt, but he assured us that he knew what the younger generation wanted. Player pianos, apparently. Al was a disc jockey playing to the young set and other SF stations. Boy, what year would this even have been? Because this is San Francisco. Things were starting to go kind of crazy at this time. Does it have any year on it? I'm trying to figure out whether this is like mid-60s, late 60s. I can't really tell. I guess I can find it. I'll try to look it up somewhere, figure it out. So we sat back and held our ears on certain rolls. Now that's interesting. They have unpleasant music? Interesting. But on other rolls they gave free rein, so we relaxed again. Then at other times we all held our breath when the player piano, an electric upright monster with a mind of its own, took the bit, or roll, in its own mouth and galloped along to the end. So yeah, no, I do not see any Conlon and Carol. We do have, let's see, there's cakewalks, things that you wouldn't recognize, a whole bunch of pre-World War I, 1922. Again, it's all piano stuff, ragtimey stuff most likely. Hong Kong and Jazz One Step, played by Ted Baxter and Max Cortlander. It's so good it might even become a hit all over again. It's not going to sound like jazz as I know it, but it's going to sound like honky tonk, I guess. And the oldest roll on this side is Maple Leaf Rag, Scott Joplin. We got Scott Joplin here. And yeah, this very, like if I sampled this, it would be sort of a multiple layers of indirection, because the credits on this are like Varsity Drag, played by a well-known orchestra leader in 1927. We'll never know who that was. It's like this is a sample of the 1927 guy who made a player piano roll. Doodle Doo Doo, played by another band leader pianist in the 20s, not even a year, just the 20s. So if I sampled that, it would be a sample of this record, which was a sample of a player piano roll, which itself was completely in obscurity. There's another track called That Old Irish Mother of Mine, played by a well-known organist in 1920. Well-known, huh? Well, you don't seem to be wanting to tell me who it is, but I guess I get to hear what the piano roll was like. And, hey, Alexi. I'm doing all right. I have just gotten off. This week was my week of going to the hospital and getting a cancer screening, and I do not have any apparent cancer, so that's pretty cool. And the chair that I got, I am actually sitting in it. And one of the things I want to do is drill out the screws that hold the arms on, because I got one that was sent with arms even though I ordered one without. So we'll see about that, I guess. I'm probably going to have to go and buy a whole new set of drill bits and then use them up for the purpose of drilling out these screws, because the steel on the screws is too damn hard. And it's just wearing. Like, I have not successfully removed the arms from this because I have not been able to get these things to let go. It's one of those chairs where it can be very difficult to disassemble. But anywho, like I said, this is my check-in, and I'm looking forward to working my way through those records and recording them and adding it to my collection and showing you some of that stuff. And on that note, I'm thinking I can start. I mean, it's the holiday season is coming, so I should give you some cool thing, right? So maybe we will lean into the plate reverb side of things. And we can see whether I can't put out like the 240 plate or even the 140 plate. And I'll see whether that is, I guess reverbs always work out fairly well. So with a bit of luck, that'll work. And on that note, I will say catch you later. And I'll see you on this coming weekend where I'll be releasing one of those plugins. Until then, bye-bye.